I never imagined I'd find my wife and daughter selling TEA on a roadside after 10 years of divorce. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It hit me like a punch. Hard and relentless. I was driving back home, the sun setting in a spectacular blaze of orange and red, when I saw them. My heart stopped. My breath caught in my throat. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. There they were. My past laid bare before me. Emma, my wife, the woman who once radiated joy, now looking worn and weary. Her hair was tangled and falling over her face, shadowing her eyes. She wore a faded dress, frayed and patched at the seams. My chest tightened as I remembered our last bitter argument 10 years ago, filled with anger and unresolved pain. How could life have led her to this? Beside her stood Lily, our little girl, who used to twirl and giggle in her princess dress. Now, she was selling tea. My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. A child shouldn't be caught in this web of struggle. She looked up at passing cars with hopeful eyes. I glanced closer. Her small fingers clenched a plastic cup, shaking slightly, as if she felt the weight of the world on her tiny shoulders. Where did I go wrong? Where was I when they needed me the most? The silence in my car was deafening. I was an outsider looking in, an intruder in this life that, just a decade ago, felt so vibrant and full. I could almost hear the echoes of laughter and warmth slipping away. The smell of fried food mixed with sweet tea wafted into my car, pulling me in closer. The world around faded. Time stood still. My heart raced against the backdrop of bustling streets. Passers-by barely glanced at them. Life continued, indifferent to the unfolding drama before me. A distinct sound snapped me back. A man shouted nearby. I saw him wave dismissively at them. Get a real job. He barked, laughter dripping from his words. I felt boiling rage bubble inside me. How could anyone not see the truth? How could they not feel their struggle? They were courageous, yet fragile. I wanted to leap from my car, scoop them up, and take them home. But fear held me captive. What if she hated me after all these years? What if Lily didn't recognize me? My vision blurred with unshed tears. I wanted to scream, to shout that I was here, that I hadn't abandoned them. But my voice was trapped, silenced by years of regret. As I sat there, uncertainty gnawing at me, a flicker of hope ignited. Emma looked up, her gaze piercing through my thoughts. For a heartbeat, our eyes met. My soul ached to bridge the chasm of distance that time had carved between us. But before I could react, she turned away, her expression unreadable. What did she see? Was it recognition or disdain? My heart raced, pounding in my ears. I didn't know whether to stay or drive away, to confront or retreat. A million questions swirled in my mind. Would she even want to see me? The truth hung heavy in the air. I had a choice to make. Do I face my fears and reach out, or let the moment slip away, like sand through my fingers? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The world outside my car felt unreal, vibrating with life, oblivious to the storm raging in my chest. I clutched the steering wheel tighter, wrestling with myself. The cacophony of car horns and chatter around me faded, leaving only the image of Emma, worn and weary but somehow still beautiful, and Lily, innocence etched in the wrinkles of her small hands. They were a plea and a punch all wrapped into one. I needed to act. I could feel time slipping away. A car motored past, the driver casting a sideways glance at the unkempt figures alongside the road, never fully seeing their plight. As I opened the car door, the scorching air embraced me, every breath heavy with unspoken words. I took a step forward, my heart thumping like the distant sound of a drum in a parade marking the countdown to my fate. Emma stood, her back to me as if she might dissolve into the world, taking Lily with her. What fragments of her spirit had been extinguished? I took another tentative step, fear clawing at my thoughts. "Mom, look." Lily's voice pierced through my reverie. I froze. With a smile that flickered like a flame, she pointed at me. "That man is coming over." Startled, Emma slowly turned, her face a mask of caution. The moment our eyes locked felt like an electric charge coursing through the air between us. I remained rooted to my spot, each second stretching painfully yet thrillingly taut. She looked at me as if assessing a stranger, weighing the cost of rekindling memories that had long turned to ash. "Dad?" Lily chirped, her voice breathy and hopeful, yet tinged with uncertainty. Recognition danced in her big, innocent eyes, a mirror of the child I once knew, now tempered by the struggles she faced every day. "Is that you?" Emma's voice cracked, uncertainty dripping from every syllable. Her once bright green eyes were marred by years of hardship, yet still I saw flickers of warmth, nostalgia maybe, or perhaps the remnants of love they shared before time and regret tainted it. "2 Just saw you both. I didn't know you were." My voice faltered, stumbling over the reality of my words, lost in years of silence and despair. "I didn't know you were out here." A small breeze passed, rustling the plastic signs of tea on their makeshift table, a symbol of connection amidst the chaos that surrounded us. The simplicity and desperation of their situation gripped me tightly, suffocating and painful, yet I longed to wrap my arms around them, shield them from a world unwilling to understand their worth. "Why are you here?" Emma's question held an edge of protectiveness, layered beneath layers of hurt and mistrust. "You think you can just show up out of nowhere?" The storm brewing inside me surged, battling my cowardice. Here she stood, the woman I once knew, now a fortress of defiance against my undying remorse. I took a deep breath, gathering fragments of courage. "I don't know, but I want to help. I want to understand." "Understand what?" The crack in her voice cut deeper than any accusation. "That you left? That you chose to disappear when we needed you the most?" The pain in her eyes pierced through my gut, forcing me to acknowledge the truth I'd buried for too long. "Mom, please." Lily's small voice wafted through the tension, a gentle plea, reminding me of her innocence in this murky emotional turmoil. She stepped closer to her mother, holding her hand tightly. "Can't we just listen to him?" The image of the little girl I once knew, full of laughter and joy, stung like salt on a wound that had never fully healed. "I never stopped loving you both," I said, the words spilling at last from my heart, raw and vulnerable. "Love doesn't fix everything, does it?" Emma responded, a frail laugh escaping her lips, but her gaze softened, revealing a flicker of the bond we had shared. "I know it doesn't. But I want to change things," I whispered, the gravity of honesty enveloping us in an unbreakable bond of vulnerability. A flicker of vulnerability crossed Emma's face, a brief hesitation before she leaned a little closer, as if daring me to take the next step. I could sense the trembling hope beneath her hardened shell, a flickering light beckoning me forward. But life had always been marred by adversity, hadn't it? Just as I opened my mouth to forge a deeper connection, a loud shout ricocheted through the air again. "Hey! Are you ladies done yet? You're wasting space." My heart sank as I turned to see a man approaching, angry, looming, intent on intimidating them back into their corner. I stepped forward instinctively, bracing myself for what lay ahead, but Emma held her hand out. She seemed to draw strength from the situation, from the life we had once created together. "Stay, please." Her voice was steady, firm in that moment amidst chaos, but I could see the undercurrent of anger and fear rippling through her. She was ready to defend what was left of her family, and I found myself wanting to join the fight at her side. Yet another figure emerged at the edge of the street, an older woman with gray hair and a caring smile. She approached them, her arms laden with food, producing a pot that steam coiled from. With every passing second, the stakes rose higher. Though I could not control the anger fizzling toward confrontation, What if the kindness of this stranger offered a bridge between our fractured family? Hope, like a delicate thread, intertwined within the reality that was closing in around us. I had to find a way in, a moment to connect with Emma and Lily, but first, I needed to navigate the brewing storm. The weight of past choices hung over our heads, and I could feel the fragile connection yearning to break free, and yet, with the figure advancing toward us, I realized I was at a crossroads where both opportunity and danger met. What would happen next? Would kindness prevail, or chaos claim us all? It was a question that gnawed at my soul relentlessly as I stood there, captive between the present and the past, waiting for fate to unveil its next move. The air around us crackled with tension, the heat of the day pressing against my skin as if the universe itself was eavesdropping on our tragic reunion. Emma's protective stance shielded Lily, her little frame a beacon of innocence amid the encroaching storm. The angering man loomed ever closer, his harsh words cutting through the fragile moment we were attempting to reclaim. My instincts kicked in as I watched him approach, his body language oozing aggression. "Why the heck are you still here?" he barked, directing his ire at Emma and Lily. His presence was like a dark cloud casting a shadow over our tenuous connection. I could feel Emma tense beside me, her hand tightening around Lily's. "Please, just go away," Emma said, her voice surprisingly steady but laced with desperation. She clutched Lily closer, and in that small action, I saw the fierce love that transcended all time and hurt. Or what? He snarled, and it ignited something deep within me, a brave flicker casting light against the encroaching shadows of our past. Or maybe you should try treating them like human beings, I said, my own voice unwavering as I stepped slightly forward. The man faltered for a moment, caught off guard by my unexpected challenge, as Emma glanced at me, a mix of gratitude and confusion clouding her features. Did she sense my resolve, or was she unsure of this uncharacteristic side of me? "Who the hell are you?" the man spat, eyes narrowing. The rancor in his tone sent shivers down my spine, yet I didn't waver. This was a moment I had prepared for in silence. The voice that had long been buried now surged forth, igniting my spirit. "I am their father," I said, the words tasting foreign yet liberating on my tongue. "And am not going to let you bully them any longer." For the briefest of moments, his bravado faltered, and I thought I caught a glimpse of uncertainty. But it was quickly masked by a rueful smile that hinted at simmering madness. "You think showing up after all these years makes you a father?" he sneered. "Lily thinks so," I replied, glancing down to where my daughter now clung onto Emma's leg, her eyes wide, searching for reassurance in a landscape painted with fear. "Stop talking to him, Mom," Lily cried, her voice trembling, piercing through the tension like a soothing balm. "Let's just get away." In that moment, a flood of warmth enveloped me, a mixture of sorrow and gratitude for this little girl who was somehow managing to hold the pieces of my shattered heart together with her innocence. But before I could respond to Lily, the older woman who had approached earlier interjected, brandishing her pot of food as if it were a shield. Now, she said, her voice a sweet melody wrapped in the roughness of life, "let's all take a breath here." The man tilted his head, now faced with not just Emma and Lily but this new character who exuded an unexpected strength. For an instant, the tension flickered, threading hope into the air. "I see you're in a bit of a scuffle, my friends," she continued, her tone soothing, like the kind of summer sun that felt gentle after a storm. "But I assure you, there are better ways to handle these matters." She extended her pot toward Emma, its fragrance wafting invitingly through the stagnant heat. "I made some stew, would you care to share?" "There's enough for all of us here, get the hell away," the man roared, waving his hands as though brushing off the woman's kindness like a fly buzzing too close to his face. But his fuming demeanor seemed to falter as the older woman continued to stand her ground, her eyes locking onto his with a fierceness that momentarily frightened the bully's bravado into submission. "There's no need for that kind of talk," she replied, unfazed. "This world can be tough enough without us adding to the darkness." Emma's grip on Lily tightened as she exchanged a glance with me, a mixture of fear and hope swirling within the depths of her green eyes. Would this moment be a turning point, or a pothole on our already uneven road? Go on, the woman encouraged Emma softly. You and your daughter have every right to be here. You have support. Lily turned, squeezed Emma's hand tighter, her belief in this unexpected kindness filling the void where hope had flickered dimly. The man hesitated, his face a mask of disbelief. You think anyone cares about your little family? He scoffed, but the potency of the woman's presence had begun to chip away at his facade. Everyone cares, even despite the dark, the woman affirmed, her gentle voice echoing like an anthem of strength. Especially those who've faced their own battles. I could scarcely breathe, not from the anxiety of the confrontation but from the anticipation of change. I wanted to grab this moment, to take Emma and Lily away somewhere far from all this pain and confrontation, but fear gripped my heart. Would they want to follow me again after all these years? As the man's bravado slipped further, I could feel that hope was inching forward into the space where darkness had cast its long shadow. Emma looked at me, her eyes sparkling with untold stories and questions waiting to be asked. But just as I reached for her, ready to embrace whatever uncharted territory lay ahead, a siren's wail cut through the air, the flashing lights reflecting off the faces around us, an ominous reminder that our time was limited. Fear collided with hope as the man's expression contorted with rage and desperation. You'll pay for this, he hissed, retreating a few steps while the grudging acknowledgement of his defeat simmered just beneath his surface. In that instant, I felt my heart rate quicken. The road ahead was uncertain, and I realized we were standing on the precipice of something life-altering, a journey of redemption, or perhaps an irreversible descent into chaos. Would the sirens herald the help we'd needed, or were they the harbingers of our worst nightmare? I took a breath, gripping onto Lily's hopeful gaze and Emma's questioning expression, reminding myself that kindness sometimes arrives like a whisper amid the storm, and I was finally ready to face it all head-on, whatever it was. The sirens blared louder, a cacophony slicing through the oppressive atmosphere as red and blue lights danced across the pavement. Time stretched, every heartbeat echoing in my ears like a countdown. Emma's eyes widened, the hopes I had nurtured crackling like shattered glass under pressure. For a moment it felt as if the world had paused, offering us a chance to breathe, to find solace amidst the turmoil. Let's go, Emma whispered urgently, pulling Lily closer. The urgency in her voice resonated with my instincts, but the man's shape loomed like a specter, a reminder of everything we'd run from. Before I could respond, the woman with the stew stepped forward. Listen, she said, her voice calm yet defiant, we won't let fear dictate our actions. Stand firm. I marveled at her bravery, the kind of strength that felt alien to me in that moment. I had always been the passive observer, allowing life to spiral around me without stepping into the fray. But her words ignited a flicker of conviction within me. Perhaps I could find that strength, too. The man hesitated, his anger wavering under the weight of her presence and the flashing lights. You think you can interfere? He spat, desperation tinging his voice. It was as if he was searching for something: authority, control, or maybe a crowd to rally against the unexpected kindness surrounding him. Kindness has its own kind of strength, the lady said firmly, planting her feet as though drawing power from the earth beneath. It stands against tyranny, against fear. You've brought nothing but shadows, and shadows can only exist where light is absent. Beside me, Emma glanced at Lily, whose innocent face radiated a sense of calm despite the surrounding chaos. This child had come to represent hope in ways I was just beginning to grasp. I was overwhelmed by the realization that it was my responsibility, our responsibility, to protect her from this darkness, even if it required us to step into the fray. Let's leave, Lily implored, her small hand grasping Emma's tightly. The sound of her sweet voice, a plea steeped in urgency, pulled me back from the edge. I nodded gently at Emma, urging her to prioritize Lily's safety above all else, but just as I turned to guide them away, the man lunged forward, an unrestrained fury erupting from deep within him. You think you can just walk away? You think I'd let you take them? My heart raced as he closed the distance, but the woman's decisive movement was electrifying. Enough! She bellowed, her voice slicing through the oppressive air like a knife. If you wish to know what strength looks like, it's found here, in these women and the thousands of others who refuse to be cowed by you. Emma's grip tightened on Lily, her eyes still transfixed on the unfolding confrontation. I felt the tension pulse between the four of us, a boiling cauldron of fear and determination. They were my family, and even as uncertainty flared, I could not allow my past failures or this man's cruelty to press us further into the dark. Maybe it is time to face the truth, I declared, stepping forward despite the trembling in my gut. You've lived in shadows long enough. Stand with them, or bow to the light. The man recoiled as his wild fury met my unexpected resolve. I could see his internal battle, the house of cards he'd built on intimidation and control teetering precariously. The sirens grew closer, and chaos seemed to ripple in every direction. But within my chest, the burgeoning flame of certainty burned brighter. Watch how people can come together, the woman continued, her voice a rallying cry, to oppose the darkness you cast. Your threats mean nothing here. And then, perhaps from somewhere deep within the gathered crowd drawn by the blaring sirens, it happened. One person stepped forward, then another, their expressions a mix of resolve and solidarity against the tide of intimidation. Strangers united by a cause they hadn't even saw together, standing as a formidable wall against the man that a fragile hope blossomed inside me. Watching this unfold, the realization that compassion had the power to shift the tide. Had I only realized that sooner, but the man wasn't finished. Defiance bristled from him like the crack of thunder, and as he struggled to rally his composure, his face turned noticeably pale. You think you've won? You have no idea what's coming. Before any of us could react, he turned and fled, running into the shadows of the alleyway nearby. Every instinct told me to chase after him, to confront him, to protect my family at all costs. But the piercing wail of the sirens drowned the moment, pulling my focus as two police cars screeched to a halt nearby. My heart raced with conflicting emotions. The men and women in uniform approached cautiously, scanning the crowded scene. I felt the warmth of the woman's nearby presence, her steadfast demeanor lending me strength, urging me quietly to stay put. Your family is safe now, she said softly, watching the police with wary eyes. Sometimes safety comes with a cost. Do you trust that? I swallowed hard, uncertainty flooding my veins. Emma caught my gaze, searching my eyes for some semblance of the connection we had once known, a bridge desperately in need of repair. Yet all I could think of was the man's words. What did he mean by "you have no idea what's coming"? As the police took statements from the crowd, I felt a profound sense of dread wash over me, suffocating the flicker of hope I had clung to. Would he return? Suddenly, Lily tugged on Emma's sleeve. Mom, what about the tea? She asked, her innocent curiosity cutting through the thick tension. An unexplained warmth blossomed in my chest as I watched Emma kneel beside her, brushing a stray hair away from Lily's forehead. We will have all the tea you want, sweetheart, Emma replied, her voice rich with love. But even as I smiled at that fleeting moment, something vital sliced through the momentary calm, the unmistakable sense that the darkness would not relent. A flip of a switch brightened my thoughts, a chilling realization coursing through me that I felt the air tremble as the oncoming steps of the unknown loomed closer. And as the sirens faded into the city night, I understood with heart-stopping clarity that our reunion, instead of heralding a new chapter, had barely scratched the surface of an impending storm, a storm where old ghosts would be unearthed, and the past would bleed into our present in ways I never imagined. The air had thickened with a tension that mirrored the darkening sky. Even after the police arrived, a crackle of electricity lingered, the threat of the man's return still flickering like a candle's flame in a gusty wind. Emma rose with Lily's hand in hers, searching the faces of the crowd, but I knew those same eyes were searching for shadows. Those shadows, however, were not the ones lurking in the alleyways. They were the ghosts we carried, the failures, the reconnections, and the unspoken words of what had transpired in the 10 long years of separation. Do you think he'll come back? Lily's voice trembled, yet it was steady, filled with a resilience that both amazed and frightened me. The innocence in her words reminded me of my own naivety, of the way life had once seemed so simple before the chaos. I knelt before her. Hey, we're all safe, all right? I tried to reassure her with an unwavering smile, though the knot in my stomach tightened viciously. The police are here, and they're very good at keeping people safe, but what if? Lily's eyes darted to Emma, concern etching her tiny brow. Just focus on the tea for now, sweetheart, Emma intervened gently, squeezing Lily's shoulder with all the reassuring warmth she could muster. That's what we came out for, remember? The best tea ever. In that moment, I felt an unexpected rush of gratitude for the simple joys of life, reminding me that hope could be found even in the midst of despair. Emma spoke softly about the various teas they had planned to sell, the names floating on her tongue like honey. I could see Lily's focus shift, the shadows of anxiety momentarily chased away by the spark of anticipation that filled her eyes. But the eerie silence around us remained unsettling. Despite the police presence, a sense of foreboding clung to the atmosphere like smoke. The man's words echoed through my thoughts, setting off alarm bells that rang louder with every fleeting second. What was he planning? As Emma turned back to the crowd to offer her comforting words about staying strong and united, I found myself drifting toward the alley, the very spot where the man had vanished in the shadows. What could drive someone to such depths? My resolve felt heavy as I stepped cautiously into that darkness. Something compelled me to search, a reckless desire to unearth whatever it was that lingered behind that last confrontation. With every step, I sensed the weight of my decisions pressing upon me, a mixture of guilt and love, regret and determination. As I poked around the corner, the sudden sound of whispers caught my attention, hushed tones that seemed to twine with the night. I pressed my ear closer, straining to understand, tangled in the inky shadows. Tomorrow, tonight it all comes together. The tea will lead them right to her, a voice hissed, urgent and broken, yet filled with malicious intent. A chill raced down my spine as I stepped back into the light, vertigo sweeping over me. Had I stumbled upon a plan that connected so deeply with my family, specifically with Emma and Lily? My breath quickened, and I felt the weight of the moment settle upon me, like a lead vest that threatened to crush me under the maddening gravity of my fear. Hey! What are you doing? A stern voice barked from behind. I spun around to see an officer approaching, concern etched into his features. I stammered, scrambling to recall the determination that had driven me. I thought I heard something. The officer narrowed his eyes, suspicion leaping from his posture. Stay close to your family. He turned away sharply, heading back to the crowd. I returned to Emma and Lily, a newfound urgency pressing into my chest. They were everything, my lifeline in a tempest of unknowns. Yet now, their safety seemed like the center of a noose tightening around my throat. When I was back amongst them, Emma glanced up, her brow furrowed. What happened? You look pale, she said, concern replacing her previous calm. I heard someone talking in the alley, I whispered, leaning closer, trying to keep my voice steady despite the tremors underneath. They mentioned something about the tea. Please, we need to be extra careful. I watched her features shift, the deeply rooted fear surfacing in her expression. But beside that fear was a glimmer of something stronger. We won't let fear control us, she whispered back, echoing the woman's words from earlier. Well, keep moving forward. In that moment, as I searched her eyes, I saw the same flicker of defiance ignited in the crowd, growing bolder by the second. My heart pulsed. They were stronger united. Perhaps we could meet this looming danger head-on, together. Yet, before I could articulate my urgency, a shadow flickered in the distance, drawing my eyes to the mouth of the alleyway once more. And through the growing mass of swirling shadows, I glimpsed a figure emerging. It was him. The man, his face masked with a malicious grin, holding something just out of sight. You thought you could hide forever? He called, his voice thick with menace. Emma and Lily moved instinctively closer, the duo mirroring one another's instinct to seek safety. My heart thudded heavily against my ribs, a tempest brewing in my veins as my pulse quickened, a shout rising in my throat, but no sound emerged, just shock held me tight in its grip as uncertainty slithered through the crowd surrounding us. And then, as the light flickered and began to descend toward the oncoming storm, I realized with a sense of horror that whatever dark fate awaited us was no longer on the horizon. It was here, and it threatened to consume everything I held dear. The flicker of the streetlights felt simultaneously stark and surreal, illuminating an abyss where the remnants of hope began to fade. The crowd's agitated whispers rippled like water disturbed by a stone, each voice tinged with fear. But the darkness behind the man seemed to pulse with danger more palpable than any dread harbored within ourselves. Everyone, stay behind me. I barked instinctively, positioning myself between Emma, Lily, and the encroaching figure. My heart raced, each beat reminding me of what lay beyond fear, a desperate need to protect them, to guard against everything that darkness represented, but even as I stood firm, a deep tremor of doubt quaked in me. Did I even possess the strength to face him? For the first time in years, I felt as lost as I did on that fateful day we parted ways, every bit of bravado waning under the weight of the uncertainty I had tried so hard to suppress. "What do you want?" I shouted, projecting a bravado I desperately tried to harness, though inside I felt as deflated as a punctured balloon. "Leave my family alone." He took a step forward, the grin on his face widening. "Oh, but I'm not here for them." His voice slashed through the air, sharp and cruel. "I came for you, your failures, the broken strings of your life tangled in a perfect web." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, eyes darting between the man and me, confusion threading through the atmosphere like a vein of anxiety. I felt Emma's hand slip into mine, squeezing tightly, and I dared to glance at her. Her face was pale but steeled with resolve, those familiar eyes full of fire. "Don't listen to him," she whispered fiercely. "He's trying to manipulate you." Every instinct urged me to comply, to retreat into the solace of denial. But as the shadows around us deepened, somehow the faint foundation of strength I thought I'd lost grasped at my core. "You don't know anything about me." I shot back, more bravado coursing through me, fueled by my life's hard-won truths. The shadow-wreathed figure tilted his head, the smirk shifting slightly beneath the veil of darkness. "Oh, but I do. I know you left both of them. I've watched as the cracks in your perfect world deepened." He jabbed a finger toward Emma, his voice dripping with malice. "I know where the true vulnerability lies." "Stop!" I bellowed, a surge of desperation drowning the whispers of my own trepidation. "You have no power here." But power was his currency. I saw it shimmer and coil around him, palpable and intoxicating, the chaos cracking beneath its surface. It was a power held over me more than anything I could see. My vulnerability, my regrets, all the decisions that had led to this moment were laid bare. Suddenly, behind the man, an elderly woman shuffled forward, a frail figure, clutching a rusted tin teapot, its faded paint flaking off like memories neglected. She stood there, a flicker of defiance lighting her weary eyes. "Love and community can drown out darkness," she said steadily, her voice breaking through the heavy, suffocating air. Everyone turned to her, a rapt silence descending momentarily, and I felt waves of warmth ripple through the crowd, an ember igniting amidst the chaos. There was something beautifully raw and honest in her spirit, a relic, perhaps, of a forgotten age where kindness triumphed over cruelty. "Keep selling your tea," she continued, glancing toward Emma and Lily. "Do not let fear extinguish what binds you. Fight together, always." The man reeled, annoyance flaring on his face, misplaced indignation blooming in response to her indelible fortitude. "Don't listen to this old fool. There's only despair in adversity." He spat, but before he could advance, my resolve hardened further. "It's not despair we feel, it's strength," I proclaimed, stepping forward, shielding the fragile sparks of hope flickering against the storm. "These women have poured their love and relentless spirit into that tea, and that's something you can never take away. You are nothing compared to the warmth and unity we've built together." The crowd began to murmur, voices rising, a symphony of strength merging into a crescendo. I felt it wash over me like a soothing balm, fortifying my shattered facade. "Together, we can beat back whatever darkness you bring." Just as I was ready to cement that promise, the man's menacing grin morphed. He turned sharply, casting a derisive laugh into the air. "Foolishness. You really think you can change anything?" Then, as if pulling a string within me, he pulled a small object from his pocket, revealing a silver locket that glimmered under the beleaguered streetlight. A gasp escaped Emma's lips, a haunting melody of recognition threading through the crowd. "Where did you get that?" I managed, my breath hitching in the wake of this revelation. "Oh, this? It used to belong to a lovely lady, and it seems someone doesn't know how far their past can stretch." The locket swung from his fingers, a chime drowning the stillness and reviving ancient memories. With it came the warmth of what had once knit us together, laughter, intimacy, and the essence of our lost years. It felt like a fever dream, collapsing old wounds open anew. My mind screamed, the implications pulling at every thread of pain I had buried, and every ounce of hope I had tried to seize. Who do you have?" I whispered, dread creeping into my heart. "Ah, but you'll have to wait until tomorrow to find out." His smirk grew wider, a masterstroke of horror circling above us, taunting our vulnerability. As he turned and melted back into the shadows, the message rang clear, leaving us suspended on the precipice of uncertainty. Tomorrow would bring answers that could destroy everything we'd fought to build. The crowd stood paralyzed, caught between despair and the flickering hope ignited by an elderly woman and the essence of tea. But I felt the weight of inevitability pressed against us, and the realization that nothing would be as it seemed tugged at the edges of my heart. "Tomorrow," Emma murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do we do?" I held her gaze, knowing that the path ahead was winding and fraught. "We prepare," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt, an ember of courage igniting deep within me. "And we fight for each other." And for the first time that night, amid the chaos and the fear, I felt the shadow of the unknown begin to shift. A brief glimmer of hope nestled amidst an impending storm. The night stretched before us like an eternal chasm, heavy with anxiety and the suffocating weight of uncertainty. The crowd, still caught in the reverberations of our confrontation with the man, began to shatter into smaller groups, murmurs threading through the air like strands of hope and fear intermingled. Yet I remained frozen, anchored to the patch of asphalt beneath my feet, the echo of that locket swinging ominously in my mind. "Tomorrow," I whispered to myself as I searched for the old woman's face in the fading light. Had she, too, felt the tremor of fear that was now settling in the pit of my stomach? A figure emerged at the edge of my vision, and I turned to find her still standing, a steadfast expression on her lined face, as if she had defied the years and the gathering shadows around her. "You spoke boldly," she said, her voice steady but carrying the weight of every life lived, every story etched into her skin. "True strength lies in love, and not in bravado alone. Remember that." I nodded. Her words wrapped around me, a balm for my restless heart. "We will remember," I promised, grateful for her presence amid this foreboding storm. Emma and Lily knelt by the street vendor's cart, now the forefront against the chaos, their little haven amidst the uncertainty. I walked toward them, drawn by the light they radiated, the warmth of a shared moment that felt like home even now, in this fractured state of our lives. "What are we going to do, Dad?" Lily looked up at me, her petite hands resting on the counter, where vibrant packets of tea and homemade pastries blinked as if winking at the treachery lingering beyond our little corner of safety. "Tomorrow, well, confront whatever that man brings," I replied, the certainty echoing through me, finding the rhythm of a plan. "But tonight, we do what we know. We serve tea, we bring warmth. That is our strength, our weapon against the darkness that threatens to invade." Emma's eyes flickered in the light, and she nodded. The glimmer of determination mixed with a hint of playfulness, as she took our daughter's hand and guided her to start brewing, one steeping tea at a time, grounding us against the waves of turmoil threatening to pull us under. Outside, as I watched them work, the sounds of laughter, the clinking of cups, and the gentle wafting of fragrant steam curled into the night. I felt a flicker of hope mingling with dread. The simple act of preparing tea rooted in love and community was somehow transforming into an act of defiance against the foreboding figure that had upended our lives within moments. I and the cool air, the scents mingled sweet spices, earth's warmth, and I found solace in their very presence, the sanctuary of my family hammering against the darkness surrounding us. But deep inside, I could still feel remnants of fear lurking, echoes of the man's taunts firing reminders of my failures. "What if he comes back?" Emma asked as she poured the hot water over the leaves, her hands steady yet her voice barely concealing a tremor. He will, I admitted, embracing the truth in those simple words. But we won't let it break us. We are stronger together. Just as I leaned closer, drawn into our intimate little world forged from warmth and memories, a figure emerged from the shadows again, slipping from the corners like smoke before brightening under the muted glow of the streetlights. My heart thrummed wildly as I recognized him, a man I had once known, a friend who had turned stranger with the years. Eli, I breathed, stunned as the past crashed against the present with the force of a tidal wave. My mind raced, recalling the laughter we had shared, the promises of eternal friendship that had faded with my own choices. What are you doing here? His face was grave as he drew closer, scanning the surroundings before his fierce gaze settled on me. I heard what happened, he said quietly, and for a moment, the memories flowed back, gentle evenings of fishing and dreams whispered under starlit skies, before everything had gone wrong. That I am here to help, David, he continued, his voice unwavering. The man you confronted, he's not just a threat. He's part of something bigger. My heart plunged, dread mingling with confusion. What are you talking about? Eli took a breath, and I could feel the depth of secrets lingering on the edge of his tongue. There's a reason he has that locket. A reason he waited 10 years to confront you. Just as I opened my mouth to summon the courage to ask the next haunting question, the distant sound of sirens wailed, slicing through the air, the harbinger of dread and disaster. Eli. Emma's voice reached out, cutting through the noise, but a chill washed over me. What danger was approaching? What part of the past still lurked around the corners, threatening to rewrite our future? The past doesn't stay buried, David, Eli warned, stepping back into the shadows just as the sirens drew closer. You need to know tomorrow won't just bring threats, it may also uncover truths buried deeper than you realized, and with that, he stepped back into the shadows, leaving me awash in questions and a painful uncertainty that brought no relief. In that instant, the fortress of hope assembled within me felt tenuous, the threads of my life unraveling as I struggled to hold on to them. Dad, what's wrong? Lily asked, concern etched in her innocent expression, unknowingly entangling the knot in my chest tighter. I looked towards Emma, who had abandoned the mystique of tea preparation, her hands trapped between expectation and worry. Nothing, I croaked, the truth knotting uncomfortably in my throat. After all, how could I explain that tomorrow would not only test our bonds but challenge everything we ever knew about our pasts? The echo of the sirens intensified, drawing closer, still a chilling reminder that even as we brewed tea from love, darkness continued to creep. The night closed in around us, and it felt as if the shadows were thickening. And as I watched the flicker of light and fire from our little roadside stand, it struck me, could we truly stand against the gathering storm? Or was our fight merely a spark against the deepening dark, destined to flicker and fade? Our hearts beat as one, yet the uncertainty hovered overhead. Tomorrow loomed large, a tempest waiting to unfold, and I felt the membranes of our world stretch perilously thin. The lines would soon be irrevocably blurred. The night thickened, wrapping itself around us like an unwanted shroud. I felt trapped in a moment that stretched indefinitely, an unbreakable cycle of fear and uncertainty. My family's laughter had turned into an echo, and the sweet scent of tea that once comforted now felt like sugar coating a knife's edge. As the sirens drew nearer, the shadows morphed, contorting into shapes that whispered threats. I glanced at Emma and Lily, their focused hands working with vigor, oblivious to the storm brewing beyond our roadside sanctuary. Their presence felt like a lifeline tethering me to sanity, yet the more I held on, the more I feared what the dawn would unveil. "I'll be right back," I said hoarsely, needing to step away, needing to breathe outside the confines of looming despair. The night welcomed me with the cooling air, a stark contrast to the warmth we had built together. I inhaled deeply, hoping to fill my lungs with courage as I paced across the asphalt, the weight of old memories dragging behind me. Ellis revelation paced alongside my thoughts, leaking fragments of troubles I had buried long ago. As I walked, shadows danced at the periphery of my vision, weaving in and out, half-formed memories of laughter fading into arguments, of promises dwindling down to silence. The darkness of the street was a mirror reflecting my fears, amplifying them until they became too deep to ignore. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, and I froze, my heart racing in choppy beats. Just as my instincts urged me to flee, the familiar voice drew closer. "David," a man called. I turned to face Jonah, an old friend, who had once walked alongside Eli in the days before my life unraveled. "Are you all right?" Jonah asked, his face etched with concern. "I saw the police lights. Things have been tense." "You shouldn't be out here alone. That I can handle it," I replied, but my voice cracked under the weight of truth. There was something alarming in his eyes, a flicker of the knowledge he carried that made my heart race further. "That man you faced, he's part of a larger network, David. A lot of us have been watching. We thought you'd left it all behind. Why now?" The question slipped out before I could summon the resolve to remain taciturn. "Why return when I thought I'd broken free?" Jonah stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Because it's not over. What he wants is rooted deeper than you know. We need you to understand that ignoring it won't keep your family safe. You carry the past wherever you go, like a shadow. Running doesn't erase it." That I looked back towards the cart where my family worked tirelessly, their laughter now wavering as the distance between us felt insurmountable. How was I supposed to shield them from a past that threatened to engulf us? "Jonah," I began, my voice trembling with anguish, "do you think I can keep them out of it? Do you think I can be the man they need?" "David, you are already that man," he replied fiercely. "But you have to confront what's lurking. Not just for you, but for them. We're all interconnected in ways that will surprise you." He rested a hand on my shoulder, grounding me in a moment that felt raw and shaken. "If you stay strong and confront this together, there's still a chance. You can weave a new fabric, stitch new hues into the entangled tapestry you've lived. But you can't shy away from the truth." As he spoke, the sirens calmed to a muted rumble in the distance, echoing the uncertainty that simmered in my loyalty to my family versus the unraveling of my past. Suddenly, as if the universe took a breath, a figure stepped from the shadows. "Eli." "David, Jonah." Ella's voice sliced through the air, quick and urgent. "You need to come back. Something's happening." A chill swept through me, sharper than the prior anxiety. I exchanged hurried glances with Jonah, and together we moved back toward the cart. Emma's smile faltered when she saw the urgency mirrored in our faces, the warmth in her hands cooling. "What is it?" she asked, her eyes wide with concern. "Stay close," I instructed, urgency reshaping my frame of mind. But as I turned back, Ellis' expression was grave, his features muted in the growing shadows. "I need you to know that tomorrow is not just a new day," he warned, his grip tightening. "It's a reckoning. The truth, David, the truth we've been shielding you from, it comes unrelentingly." My heart sank, an impending sense of dread clouded my thoughts. "It's about the locket, isn't it?" I asked, the realization striking a chord of fear within my chest. "Yes." Eli hesitated, the weight of unspoken burdens resting between us. "But now's not the time. What we face isn't just an old grudge, it's tied to the very fabric of your life, to your connection with Emma and Lily." Rising panic surfaced like a tidal wave threatening to swallow me, and I struggled to maintain my composure. "I have to protect them," I murmured, the words barely escaping my lips. Emma, reading the distress in my eyes, stepped closer, taking Lily's hand. "Dad, please tell us what's going on." Her whisper echoed in the night, and I could see the fear intertwining with resolve in her gaze, but I couldn't find the words to unspool the complexities I had buried, the darkness wrapped around the locket that had sparked this chain of events. The line had been drawn, a sturdy wall separating the world I wanted for them from the reality that loomed large. Suddenly, a figure lurked at the edge of the street, illuminated by the harsh glow of the street-lithe man from before, his silhouette unmistakable against the twilight. Time elongated, each second draped in uncertainty, and the air crackled as he stepped forward. My breath quickened, and as if sensing the shift in the atmosphere, Emma took a cautious step back, shielding Lily with her form. "Tomorrow will change everything," the man snarled, his eyes glinting with a madness that chilled me, the resolve I tried to maintain shattered against the weight of his words. "It's here," he continued, his voice rising like a storm. "Prepare yourselves." And just like that, the the pieces I sought to hide sprawled before us, bold and glaring. The night grew heavier, the darkness intertwining tightly with the threads of my life. I felt the fragility of the hope I barely grasped, and as the words settled around us, the edge of fear took hold. What other truths would tomorrow unveil? Would my family withstand the echoes of the past, or would it dismantle everything we had tried to build? The following dawn broke slowly, shrouded in a heavy mist that clung to the ground like a secret. I watched from the dim doorway of our makeshift shelter, feeling the cold seep into my bones, mixing with the dread that had settled in my heart. The had seemed unreal after last night, the threat looming from the shadows, the man with the wild eyes. I clenched my fists, determined not to let them notice how deeply shaken I truly was. Emma and Lily were already at work, going about their routine of brewing tea and arranging our humble display. The steam curled up from the kettle, wrapping itself around the delicate tendrils of morning air. I watched them, the alchemy of their laughter lingering in the air like the scent of the herbs they infused. It was a fleeting moment of warmth that made the ache in my chest swell with a confusing mix of hope and despair. "Dad," Lily called suddenly, her voice bright as sunshine. "Can you help us set out these cups? It's almost time for our first customers." I blinked, forced to pry my thoughts from the shadows that threatened to engulf me. It was easy, too easy, to get lost in the web of fears that echoed around me. "Of course," I replied, forcing a smile as I joined them at the cart. Their presence felt like a balm, soothing the rawness I carried within, but just as I regained my composure, a familiar tension unfurled in the pit of my stomach, reminding me of the unresolved truths that clamored for attention. No matter how brightly the sun shone, there was an impending storm lurking beyond the horizon. As we set the cups together, I became lost in the rhythm of our family routine, the gentle clinks of porcelain against wood, the murmurs of exchange between Emma and Lily. For a moment, I could believe that everything would be fine. But shadows weren't easily dispelled. "David," Emma said, her voice slicing through the brief cloud of normalcy. "Is everything all right? You've been acting strange since last night." Caught off guard, I hesitated. A part of me wanted to pull away, to guard them from the truth I feared would shatter the delicate peace we had built. "I'm fine," I replied, but the uncertainty mixed with my words felt like an obvious lie. Emma searched my gaze, and for an agonizing moment, I could see the doubt creeping into her eyes. "You don't have to tell me everything right now, but promise me you'll open up when you're ready." Deep inside, I felt a fresh wave of admiration for her resilience, but it was swiftly overshadowed by guilt. It wasn't just my fear I had to carry, I was shrouded in the weight of protection that imposed silence between us. I nodded, even though I knew it was a half-promise. The morning passed with small bursts of energy from customers who were surprisingly kind, each purchase embedding a shimmer of comfort in my heart. But as the hum of camaraderie filled our little corner of the world, my thoughts kept drifting to the man from last night, the lingering threat wrapped in the musty scent of the past. Then I noticed a figure approaching from across the street, an unsettling recognition blooming within me as I watched. It was Jonah, moving quickly towards us, his brow furrowed in urgency. My gut twisted, seeing him now felt like a storm breaching the walls I had constructed. "David, we need to talk," he said breathlessly, panic etched across his features as he arrived at our stall. "Jonah," I warned, rushing to him as he scanned the crowd anxiously. "You can't be here. It's not safe." But before he could answer, a commotion erupted down the street, a loud shout, followed by a cacophony that commanded our attention. I turned just in time to see a group of men advancing towards us, their faces unreadable, but their intentions palpable, like a storm brewing that I felt a chill encase my spine. The protective instinct surged within me, demanding my attention as I stepped closer to Emma and Lily, putting myself between them and the unknown. "Stay back," I ordered, my voice growing cold and firm. "David." Jonah pushed forward, urgency dripping from his tone. "You need to leave now. They're looking for you." "What?" "No." I shook my head vehemently, refusing to believe that this was happening. "I won't let them touch my family." Lily clutched Emma's arm, stepping forward slightly. "Daddy, who are those men? What's happening?" I turned, my heart slamming against the walls of my chest, back and forth between my fatherly instinct and despair. "Stay behind us, sweetheart, please." The urgency in my voice was a thin veneer over the fear clawing inside me, but I willed myself to calm their rising panic. As the men closed the distance, one of them stepped forward, shadowed by an aura of danger. The ground beneath my feet felt unsteady, the atmosphere charged. "David," he pronounced, his voice a morbid melody, "you have something that belongs to us." That moment, the world felt like it was unraveling as dread washed over both Emma and Lily. They turned to me, confusion and terror mingling in their eyes, and I could see the weight of my past threatening to crash down upon us, dragging them into the storm I had fought so hard to keep at bay. "Leave us alone," I snapped, my own voice trembling as I faced the men, desperate to shield my family. "I don't have anything you want, perhaps not yet," the man replied, his grin wicked, eyes glinting with an insatiable hunger. "But you will." Before I could respond, a cold realization gripped my heart. My efforts had not been enough. The shadows that had haunted my past were here, and with them came answers I wasn't ready to confront. As the air grew thick with tension, all hope for a normal day slipped through my grasp, and as I stood, rooted in that moment, I realized with gut-wrenching clarity, tomorrow had already begun its reckoning, and I could no longer protect those I loved from the darkness lurking just out of sight. The air felt thick, as though the universe was holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable to unfold. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, drowning out the chaos suddenly enveloping us. Emma's grip tightened on Lily, and I could feel their fear radiate toward me, a current of panic that threatened to pull us all under. The men were closing in, shadows stretching, a stark contrast to the warmth we had built with our little tea stand. I had fought so hard to forge a path back to my family, to redeem what had felt lost, and now it was all fracturing before my very eyes. "No!" I shouted again, adrenaline pumping through me. "You don't understand what you're threatening here." The words barely left my mouth before the man stepped closer, invading the space I had carved out to protect my family. I could see the other men flanking him, their expressions twisted with malicious glee, and dread gripped my good, a heavy, suffocating weight that hovered dangerously close to despair. "Time's up, David. We've been patient long enough." The lead man narrowed his eyes, and I recognized that darkness coiling around him, the same malevolence that had crept into my life a decade ago. "You thought you could walk away from this, but we both know it's not that easy." The world narrowed to that moment, the connection between us spanning years of hurt, regret, and forgotten ties. "I'm not afraid of you," I declared, even as worry clawed within me, determined to hold the line between danger and the fragile peace we'd just begun to mend. My voice quivered slightly, betraying the tumult of emotions roiling inside me, a mix of anger, regret, and a fierce protectiveness rising like an unquenchable flame. Lily took a step forward, her tiny voice piercing through the tension. "Daddy, please, what's happening?" In her eyes, I saw the reflection of innocencia, pure, unfiltered love that I would do anything to shield from this darkness. I dropped to one knee beside her, feeling Emma's hand on my back, a silent question hanging in the air. "Everything's going to be okay, sweetheart. I just need you to listen to me." But as I held her gaze, memories surged. 10 years of absence, of leaving them vulnerable and alone. Regret and shame flowed like poison through my veins. "That's what you said years ago, isn't it?" The lead man interrupted, eyes glinting with a cruel edge. "What did it get you? A million regrets? Nothing but shattered dreams? Stay back." I shouted again, stepping deeper into the path between them and my family, heart racing against the reality of being truly cornered. "David, we can work this out," Jonah said from behind me, his urgency palpable. "Whatever they want, just give it to them. You need to think about your family." With every word, I could feel the tension unraveling, the stakes of our fragile moment escalating into something far worse. "This isn't just about me anymore," I replied hoarsely, glancing back at Emma, whose expression was pinched with worry. "It never was." "Then let's make it about them," the man said, his grin stretching wider. "All I want is the locket. You have something that means a great deal." Hand it over, or you will regret what comes next. A heartbeat of silence passed, stretching into eternity, before clarity ignited a fierce determination within me. They could sense my hesitation, but this time, I wouldn't let fear dictate my choices. You know what? I don't care about your threats. I spat, the words raw and unfiltered. I'm not afraid of you or the past you wield against me. You came here thinking you could rip what matters from me. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, as though my defiance startled him. But as I took a step forward, I realized the power of my words resonated not just for him, but for the family behind me. We were a circle, not just a mere moment frozen in fear, but a bond forged through pain and resilience. Everything changes today. I continued, feeling Emma's warmth beside me urging me onward. You think I'm the same person I was before? You think I haven't learned how to stand against darkness? My voice gained strength, rippling through the air as I locked my gaze with the man. You'll not take my familito, you hear me? Whatever happens next, you will not shatter what we've built. I met the other's eyes, seeing the spark of bewilderment turning into something deeper. Would they understand? A single moment stretched impossibly, and I could sense their confusion beginning to shift like embers igniting under kindling. Very well, the man said at last, a simmering rage twisted into his grin. Well, see how brave you feel when the morning light reveals the truth. The lead man turned slightly, and the air thickened, a palpable signal crackling with dread. In a moment's notice, he stepped back toward the shadows, urging the others to retreat behind him. You don't think this is over, he called, his voice smooth yet filled with threats. Tomorrow, you'll find out just how deeply intertwining the remnants of your past can become. With that, they melded back into the dark, leaving behind the oppressive weight of their threat lingering like a specter. I felt my chest tighten, fear coursing in sharp currents, a sudden realization crashing over me like the crushing waves of an incoming tide. Is it over? Emma whispered, her voice trembling as she stepped closer, pulling Lily into her embrace. I shook my head slowly, the rawness burning behind my eyes. Not by a long shot, I said. But we've made it this far, and we won't draw back now. Lily's grip around Emma's waist tightened, her innocence sealing the promise of safety within the circle of our family. And as I looked at the two of them, I felt a wash of clarity envelop my tangled thoughts. They can threaten us with the past, I continued, my voice lowering to a soothing cadence. But we have something they don't understand. They think that shadows will weaken us, but love only illuminates. We stood together then, a triangle of strength forged from the trials we'd faced, and I knew that these moments, not the ones fraught with turmoil, would illuminate the path before us. From this moment, we will hold on tighter to each other. We will find the light even when the darkness tries to seep in. Mama, can we still brew tea? Lily asked, tilting her head up to meet us. Yes, sweetie, Emma assured her, her steady voice strengthening against the fresh onslaught of worry. Well, brew our best tea, and we'll face what's coming together. In that moment, the flickering promise of tomorrow solidified. The very truth that had haunted Meth, joys of love and the strength found in community, could silence the shadows lurking just beyond. With every kettle that bubbled and every cup that filled, we would foster resilience amidst the storm. As we settled back into our makeshift tea sanctuary, holding on to the warmth of each other, I felt a surge of hope envelop us. We would face the dawn of reckoning as one, together against whatever might come. There was weight to our resolve, a form of courage boosted by the communal spirit of every person who loved fiercely. The echoes of the past thrummed into rhythmic pulses of hope, one that promised healing not just through retribution, but the simple act of being together. Sometimes, the greatest bravery is not simply standing against the darkness, but finding the courage to nestle closer into the light of love, reminding ourselves that our bonds are unlike any oppression that comes our way. And in that poignant realization, I knew that no matter the storm, the past or the future's unknown, we would always rise as one, unwavering in our love. Tomorrow may wield its uncertainties, but in that moment, together, we were unbreakable, and for the first time in years, I could feel the dawning light on our horizon, radiating warmth against the chill of doubt that had held me captive for so long. I knew then come what may, it would never be dark again.